Today in Disciples of the Faith, let's know the story of Jezebel, one of the most wicked and feared women in the tribe. Known for its cruelty, manipulation, and idolatry, she became the symbol of evil in Israeli history. You knew Jezebel was called the most wicked woman in the tribe. But what led her to become the personification of evil? What were your actions? Who almost destroyed the faith of God's chosen people? Get ready to know the story of Jezebel, the queen who not only challenged the power of God, but also many to the path of perdition. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel now and activate the bell, not to miss more videos like this. Let's embark on one dark and revealing journey to understand who Jezebel really was and how your story still resonates today. Jezebel was born in Sidonia, a region marked by idolatry and by the wicked rituals of Baal, a pagan god worshipped through horrible practices, like human sacrifices. Jezebel was Etbaal's daughter, who was not only the king of the Sidonians, but also a priest dedicated to Baal. Growing up in an environment of cruelty, Jezebel was molded to be a relentless leader, loyal to your father's principles, and willing to do anything to ensure Baal worship. When she married Ahab, king of Israel, it wasn't for love, but by one power strategy. Your marriage with En meant the importation of Baal idolatry into the heart of Israel. Instead of helping to bring Israel back to worshipping the God of Abraham, she used her position to transform Israel in a realm of religious perversion, taking the chosen people of God to follow the false gods of Sidonia. Jezebel wasn't just a powerful woman. She was also a relentless woman in its quest to eliminate all those who followed the true God. His persecution of God's prophets was not limited to Elijah, but it extended to many other men of faith who, as Elias, were willing to oppose the idolatry it imposed. After marriage, Jezebel began his true work of destruction. With a heart full of hate and a will insatiable of power, she became the main incentive of persecution against the prophets of God. Your goal was simple: know all the worship of the Lord and establish the total dominion of Baal. 1 Kings 13. The writer mentions here, while Elias was in hiding, one of Ahab's servants, called Obadiah, hired out 100 prophets of God in caves to save them from Jezebel's IRA. It shows that Jezebel spared no effort to hunt down the servants of God. The reference she destroyed, the lives of the Lord's prophets, refers to the total eradication of the cult to God in Israel. She wanted there to be no more resistance, your religion, and for that, used all the possible means, including murders, tie-ons, and false judgments. Jezebel became one of the most feared figures for your skill of manipulating or power to kill anyone who dared question your authority or your faith. This relentless pursuit is a reflection of your determination to transform Israel in a kingdom where idolatry was the only accepted doctrine. The Baal cult, it wasn't just a religion, pagan worship of false gods. It was a practice filled with cruelty and violence. When Jezebel brought the priests of Baal to Israel, she not only established one new religion, but also ritual legitimations, extremely violent, including human sacrifices, ritual prostitution practices, and other acts that would reflect spiritual purity and morals of the people of Israel. According to Baal traditions, priests often performed rituals to invoke the blessing of the god of fertility. many of which involved the death of human beings, usually children, as sacrifices to appease Baal. These rituals, who sought to ensure good harvests and prosperity, were often masked as religious acts, but in reality were one brutal form of control and manipulation. As always, although it doesn't go into much detail about these sacrifices, gives us clues that Jezebel was willing to do anything to consolidate the cult of Baal, including the death of innocents. Jezebel, as one follower of Baal, made a point of these rituals, were practiced on a large scale in Israel. She used her power to ensure that the priests of Baal had support and protection, as true worship of the God of Israel was silenced and eradicated. Baal's practices became so ingrained that during the reign of Jezebel, Israel was completely immersed in spiritual enlightenment, taking the people to fall into slavery of demonic rituals. In addition, when Elias, moved by the Spirit of God, challenged the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, he wasn't just facing a confrontation between faith and idolatry, but denouncing the bad present. In the practices that Jezebel had imposed on the people, Elias wasn't just fighting for the truth, but also exposing the evil that Jezebel and his followers were bringing to Israel. These rituals, and utter for any human life that was in disagreement with the worship of Baal, not only transformed Israel in a land of spiritual death, but they also made Jezebel a sinister figure of intelligence and destruction. She not only introduced the cult of the false god, but he did it so perversely. Then anyone who dared to shoot was exposed to death. Another pivotal moment in Jezebel's history was his performance in the death of Naboth. Just man faithful to God, Naboth had a scar that ended up coveting. But Naboth refused to sell his land because it was his parents' inheritance and was according to the law of God. Jezebel, with its manipulative nature, did not accept this refusal. She faced a diabolical plot to destroy in the boat. First, she wrote letters in the name to finish forging the king's signature. In these letters, she had a fast proclaimed and fell into the boat in a false accusation position, claiming that he blasphemed against God and against the king. With this lie, Naboth was condemned to death and stoned to the end. Jezebel had no mercy. She got what she wanted. The cloud of Naboth became available to finish. But the price, it was the life of a just man. This act of falsehood and cruelty showed how far Jezebel was willing to go to satisfy her desires and consolidate your power. When Elijah rose up against the prophets of Baal, he challenged Jezebel directly, putting your faith to the test in a public competition on Mount Carmel. He asked the prophets of Baal, make a sacrifice, but let them not light fire, while he would do the same. The idea was that the true God was the one who sent sky fire. When the prophets of Baal failed in their invocation, Elijah prayed, and the fire of the Lord came down from heaven, consuming the sacrifice. This event was a coup, straight against Jezebel's idolatry, a humiliating outcome for her and her followers. After the death of Ahab, Jezebel obtained great power and influence in the kingdom, but your time was about to end. Jezebel was hit from the palace window, and his body was crushed by the horses of Jesus. Jezebel's blood was scattered through the walls. He has prophesied by Elias, your body was devoured by the gay dogs. Chosen by God, was assigned to destroy the end house. And that included Jezebel. She, who was once the most powerful woman in the kingdom, had its tragic and humiliating end, paid the price for your actions. His death was a clear demonstration that as much as evil seems to triumph for a while, God's judgment is inevitable. The story of Jezebel is a warning to all of us. She teaches us that evil, no matter how cunning and strong it may be, will not prevail before the judgment of God. Your insatiable quest by power and his complete lack of regret resulted in its fall and destruction. But what can we learn from its history? The story of Jezebel is a lesson about evil, yes, but also about the danger of blindly following the desires for power and control. What is your opinion of the Jezebel story? Believe your life is a lesson about evil, or is there something deeper behind your actions?